Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Solinsky, aka the Running Wine Mom. Today, we have another incredible guest joining us. She's the brilliant mind behind the popular platform Modern Mom Probs, a place where she tackles the real, raw, and often humorous challenges that modern mothers face every day. With her insightful content and engaging social media presence, she has built a community that resonates with so many of us. We have a lot to cover today, from balancing career and family life to navigating social media pressures and maintaining mental health as a modern mom. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Tara Clark, aka Modern Mom Probs, to the show. Tara, thank you for joining me today.
Yay! Thanks for having me, Sam. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, and we connected at the Create Her event, and I was able, as I mentioned before to some of the other guests, that was such a great networking, and really one of my first big networking opportunities with women of that are just doing all of these great things in the parenting world. And it took a lot for me to come up to you and Alice at the time, because I recognized Alice was the header, and I was like, okay, this is networking. I need to go just do this. And you guys were so nice. And I just am so grateful that I got to connect with you guys.
I'm so glad we got a chance to connect too. I know it is overwhelming in those types of environments to be like, should I go say hi to somebody? Should I not? Like, what's the deal? But for me, now I've learned, I've been doing this industry for a while. Like, I just go up and say hi to people.
Yeah.
I went up and say hi to people, whether they know me or don't know me, or they care or they don't care. Like, it's fine. Like, there's a woman, her name is Meg Boggs, and she's a mother. She's an influencer. She's a power lifter. I don't know. Like, if you follow her account is literally just Meg Boggs. Well, anyway, at a conference, I went up to her and I was like, Meg, I'm a huge fan. I love everything that you're doing. And she was like so shocked. I think that like she was approached and you know, I wasn't like crazy or anything, but I you know, went up to her and I said like, pleasure to meet you. She had no idea who I was, you know, and that's fine. But I just wanted to like show my support for what she's doing and all the work that she's putting out there.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about. And that is something that that whole event got me totally out of that shell to do. And I'm very grateful for it. But if I would have seen you guys in the very beginning, I never would have come up to you. But that was like kind of towards the end. So I was like feeling really confident. I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And you know, it was just really, so that's the advice, is to just do it to anyone who's listening. If you have the instinct,
just do it. And Alice is hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
People
so
don't
funny.
follow Alice, they should. It's MomCom NYC. I'm constantly telling people like, go follow Alice. She is a riot. Huge fan of hers. Love her.
Yeah. I'm interviewing her Monday, actually.
Yay!
So I'm excited for
that makes me so happy. She's a riot and she's so much fun.
Funny.
She's the best.
It's great.
That's going to be a great conversation.
I'm so excited for it. She is hilarious. So to start each episode, we have our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that's been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So Tara, what is your WINE of the week?
I love that. I'm not a huge wine drinker, truth be told.
That's okay.
I do love an Aperol Spritz when I go out to dinner.
Yes.
So if someone had to say, like, what's your drink of choice right now? Like, what are you really into? Aperol Spritzes when I go out to dinner. So that would be my thing there. So yeah.
It is great for the summer season. So I love that as, yes. So what is your WHINE of the week?
God. You like how I said that? Like how I really had to like think about that one? I think, you know, I always keep getting hung up on like content. You know, as content creators, we're sort of on this hamster wheel to always produce content, right? And I think it's challenging for me now, and I've been doing it since 2016. And you know, the landscape has changed so much since then, that it's hard to always come up with fresh and new and unique and novel content.
Right.
And I think that's sort of been my like wine lately, is like coming up with something fresh and new and engaging.
Right. And it's, what are people, there's so many things that I put so much time and effort into, and they get nothing. And then there's things that I'm just like, yeah, let me just video this real quickly. I just thought of it off on a whim. And I'm like, really? This is
you're like, that worked?
But that was at the Create Her event. The Baby Bjorn people were there, and they had a big one that you could sit in. And I was like, oh, can you just like video me real quick? This is so fun. I can't wait to like send it to my girlfriends. And then I'm like, let me just post it on Instagram. Literally like insane amount of views. And I'm like, what is even happening here?
It's crazy. I know it's crazy. I've been in love with Threads now, which is like the Instagram version of Twitter. I think I love it for many reasons. One, when I got started on Instagram, it was mostly text-based anyway. So for me, it's come full circle. Like I am text-based going back to text-based. So I love that, right? And two, it's an incredibly supportive, positive platform at this point. It's like women supporting women, which is everything that I believe in. That. And so I love Threads. And so I've been spending a lot of time there lately. And what I've been noticing that does really well are really short stories. Like give it like a little vignette, like yesterday, blah, 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 blah happened. And those totally pop off. So similar to what you're saying, is that like sometimes like you don't have to overthink the content. It's just like sharing a story. It's just, you know, sitting in a baby Bjorn, you know, it's like those kind of things that, you know, I think we get hung up on it. And, you know, I should take my own advice here. And as I'm saying that, it's like, sometimes simple is better, right? Sometimes just share a story. Sometimes it doesn't always have to be a big, crazy, over the top thing.
Yeah. Well, I think you just solved your wine of the week is to listen to your own advice. So what is your win of the week?
So this week, speaking of Threads and Instagram, I was invited to a little camp upstate. It was about an hour or so outside of New York City. It was for creators. I was the only parenting creator. I was actually the only parent there in general. Everyone else, they were like lifestyle, fitness, food. And we had like a summer camp. So we were hosted by Meta in this summer camp. It was the most beautiful, beautiful place. And as a girl who never got to attend summer camp, and even when I was a child, I thought summer camp was made up only for television. I didn't realize that like people actually like went to summer camp because none of my friends or family ever went to summer camp. And so I thought that was just like a movie thing, but it's not. Surprise. So I got to do summer camp this week and it was just incredible. So it was wonderful meeting the creators and sharing ideas and just getting to know people better. We didn't even talk about work that much, believe it or not. It came up from time to time, but for the most part, it didn't. And we were just like in awe of our surroundings and nature and all the beauty of it. And so that was my win of the week.
That's awesome. And I did see your stories of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that place. I've seen people post when they were there before at that. I think it's the same place. And it's just gorgeous. It's definitely on my list to go to.
It's stunning. So in the summer, they only host weddings or like big corporate events and stuff. And then it's only opened to regular people as a hotel in the winter.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny you say that because everyone I know that I've seen there has not been in there in the summer. So I guess that makes sense why.
Yeah, no, it totally does. And I was actually surprised that a friend of mine, she like DM'd me and she was like, oh, my sister got married there. And I was like, holy cow. Because it's just like next level, like Hollywood kind of stuff. It's just gorgeous. And just to give them a shout out, it's called Cedar Lakes Estate.
Okay. Yeah. And I can link that for people who either want to get married there or want to just stay there.
Yeah. Either
as a getaway in the tri-state area, because that's, I'm outside of Philadelphia. And so it's not super far to get up there. So I always like to ask my guests, what is one significant challenge you've successfully navigated shaping your journey to where you are today? And what is one accomplishment you're most proud of in life?
My gosh. Wow. What a question, Sam.
Yeah.
I mean,
a loaded
really,
one.
Like that's a loaded question. I am so proud of what I've been able to accomplish with Modern Mom Probs, right? Because that was a concept that I just had. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this thing just to give like a little bit of the background. I used to work at Nickelodeon.
Oh, wow.
In social media. So I actually, at one time in my life, I was Dora the Explorer on Facebook. Gosh. And my mom used to run around and tell people like, my daughter's Dora the Explorer. I was like, on Facebook, mommy, on Facebook. And so I was there for 5 years. I loved Nickelodeon. I was not always in the social media component for 5 years, but I was at Nickelodeon for 5 years working in digital and I loved it. It was just like the most creative, talented people. When my son was born, I wanted to go part-time, but they actually said it was all or nothing. And I said, that's okay. I'm going to stay home with him. So when he was 3, I was looking for a creative outlet. And there was a shiny new website called Canva that was just coming out. And Instagram had been out for several years, but it was like mostly taking pictures of lattes and sandwiches and stuff at that point. And so early 2016, I said to my friends and family, I'm going to start a parenting Instagram page. And they were like, what? And they were like, nobody's doing that. And I was like, they were like, it's not a thing. And I was like, it's not a thing yet. It's going to be a thing. And they're like, all right, yeah, good luck with that. So early 2016 started that. And again, like there were definitely like parenting people there, but it was not a huge community. So I had a small group of my friends and they were, from all over the country, all over the world, in fact. And at the time I was living in New York City. And so I was talking about New York City problems. And it was very like city centric, right? Talking about the subways and private school and different things like that. At the end of 2016, I moved out of the city, out of New York City to New Jersey, to the suburbs. And I had an existential crisis where I didn't have New York City mom problems anymore. And so I was like, what do I change my name to? And so my good friend, Angela, who runs an account called Mommy Wine Time, she and I were like DMing one day. Yeah, I feel like that's apropos. So, which is ironic because she actually like never talks about wine on her page. But when she started it back in 2016, she thought it made sense, right? So Mommy Wine Time and I are good friends. We're DMing. This was April 2017. And we're like, God, we're looking for adjectives. Like what kind of adjective would like describe what I want to do? And so she's throwing out things and I'm throwing out things. And I was like, how about modern? And she was like, yes. And so like a light switch. The next day, I turned everything to Modern Mom Probs. And then honestly, the account just like blew up and took off from there. And so that was 2017. And yeah, so it's just been kind of doing it since then. So what am I proud of? I'm proud of, growing the community the way that I did. From there, I got a book deal. From there, I launched a podcast. From there, I started something called Modern Mom Style Box, which is a clothing subscription service. And so there was a lot of opportunities that have come from there. Cool things to do with Meta, like going to that camp, like just like so many different things that have come out of like where there was nothing, it was just an idea that I had and I pitched to my friends and family and they were like, yeah, okay. And then that was it. And the account evolved and I've evolved as a person and as a mother. And I'm so proud of that. I'm proud of all of those things.
You should be.
And I guess my biggest thing that I'm proud of is my relationship with my son and my husband, because I love them more than anything in the whole wide world. And if they said to me tomorrow, like, Mom, stop this. Like, I don't want you to, I don't know, talk about my life online or, on the podcast, anything like that. Like, I would stop tomorrow, because to me, my relationship with both my husband and my son are just the single most important things to me. And that's what I'm most proud of.
That's great. I love that story too. And I do a lot in my school that I teach as well, with growth mindset and mental health with the high schoolers. And the growth mindset is, I was just thinking about it as you were saying how your friends and family are like, well, nobody even does this. So you clearly have a growth mindset. And that's something that a lot of people might have just been like, oh, maybe it's stupid and I won't do it. And you are a great example that just doing it can lead you to amazing places. So you should be definitely very proud of that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, a growth mindset is really important in our house. Like with my son, I have an 11-and-a-half-year-old son. And so, since when he was very young, we were just have been instilling the power of instilling the power of positive self-talk, all of those things. So yeah, it is. I definitely live in practice when it comes to those things.
That's awesome. All right. So the Running Wine Mom, we got to start with fitness. What's your favorite way to stay active?
Pilates. I do Pilates several days a week. I also have a treadmill. So like on days when I'm not doing Pilates and I'm usually walking on my treadmill or running, I try to run. I'm like the worst runner, like literally like the world's worst. I always have been. Like it's never like, oh, it happened at a certain age. It's like I haven't been a good runner since I was like a little kid. Although at this creator camp, we played kickball and I was good. I made it all the way. Yeah, I made it to third base and I would have stayed on third base except for the guy behind me. His name was Sam, was like, no, go take it home. I was like, I don't have it. I don't have it. He's like, you have it. I was like, I don't have it. And guess what? I was right. I didn't have it because although like he had kicked, some like ridiculous ball, like way, way in the outfield, he should have stayed on second. I should have stayed on third and we waited, but I got out, but it's okay. I'm not bitter about it or anything. But, but the reason why I'm even mentioning that is I ran so hard around those bases that I'm feeling it now today, like 2 days later.
Oh my gosh. That it is what those games. I am a high school health and phys ed teacher. So I know we're playing all these games and the kids are going so hard in class and sometimes I'll like step in and be like, yeah, like I'll let's have fun with this. And I'm like, okay, like great. I just wanted to show you guys one round, and now I'm out because I'm dying right now.
No, I left it all on the field for that game of,
I love it. I love it.
And then even we did end up winning by 1 or 2 points. And then at one point, that same kid who had hit the home run, I guess I would call it, like he hit the home run later, and that's actually what won the game for us. But I was doing this move that, you know, I was trying to bring everyone home, right? So and if you're showing this on video, I'm like doing a full windmill. I'm like, bring it home, bring it home. And then the whole rest of the day, my shoulder hurt. I was like, of course.
Oh, no.
I shouldn't have done that move unless I was ready to do that move. But
you need to get a massage after that.
I do. Like I said, we left it all on the field because sometimes, you know, competition and that competitive nature just takes over.
Brings it back. Like sometimes you forget you even have it in there. And you're like, wait, I need to win.
Yeah. And guess what? We did. Well, you know what happened? It was sort of a sudden death thing because we had done several different, like we went back and forth. There was a relay race that we lost. So we were like, we're not losing again. So we had to win the kickball, and we did. And then ultimately we lost in tug of war. And then that was it.
Tug of war, I am not very good at. My upper body strength is just not there for it.
I know what happened with us there is that we were going to have a strategy where someone was going to count to 3, and then we were waiting and to then do it. But what happened was that the other team just was like pulling right from jump, and so we didn't have a chance to do the strategy. So I think that we would have really stood a good chance to win had we like pulled at equal amounts from the beginning, but we just didn't. So
it's hard. Once you lose that like initial pool, then it's over.
That was it. So anyway, that's enough about a field day.
Listen, I love it. I love it. And I always also say, if you run, you're a runner. It doesn't matter how fast or how slow. So you are a runner. That's the most important thing. How does maintaining your fitness routine contribute to not only your motivation, but your relationship between mental health and physical health?
Yeah, it's so important to move your body. I tell people this all the time, whether it's like on the podcast or just in general, like put your phone down, go for a walk outside, go on the treadmill. Your body is meant to move, right? We're not meant to sit on the couch. And so I think it absolutely tied together, inexplicably tied together. You know, like you have to keep it together. So yeah, anytime you're starting to feel a little down, anytime my mom calls me and she's like kind of in the mood, I'm like, Mom, go outside, go for a walk. Right. Hang up the phone and go outside for a walk, Mom. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, she does. And she feels better.
But it's even outside, I think, is so important too. But like with babies, it's either take them outside or put them underwater. And it's like the 2 basic things that we all kind of crave is being outside and being near water, drinking water, in water, something like that. So I feel so you could take that till you're 100, which is awesome.
Yeah, you really can. We often joke, like throw water on it. You know, if your child's in a bad mood, like put them in the bath, take them to the pool, whatever it is, give them a glass of water. It's so, so important. When my son was a baby, we lived in New York City. So I always had him in the stroller, and I was walking, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 steps a day. Like it was just like nothing just to get out of the house. You can only be in that apartment for so long. Right. And so we were just like walking. And I didn't realize how much walking we did together until I moved to the suburbs, and then I wasn't doing that anymore. Right. And then I was like, wait a minute. And then at that point, then I had to like go to exercise classes and make it a priority when it's not like it wasn't a priority before, but like it was just so ingrained in my life that I didn't even think twice. Like you're walking 20,000 steps and like you weren't even thinking twice. And now here I'm like, oh, now I have to like wake up and go to a class. Like all of those things, I have to be more intentional about it, more mindful about it than I was previously. And even still, I have to be like that because like I said, I still live in the suburbs now and I sit around more than ever. So unless I make it a point to say, okay, now I have to go to Pilates or now I have to go on the treadmill, then I'll just, I don't know, sit around and hang out, I guess. No, it's mostly not even sitting around and hanging out. It's like cleaning up the playroom, doing laundry, and then checking email. Those are probably the things I do.
it's just the things in your house that you feel like you have to do. Like, I feel as though if you're out of the house, those things just don't exist. With, that's what I just posted a thing with taking my kids. My gym has a beautiful outdoor pool. And so it's kind of really nice now. Like, I'll go work out while they're in kids club. Then I'll get myself ready, then go get them. And I'm like, the other day, I'm like, I got all this crap at home done, like not done, no dinner ready, nothing. I'm like, but guess what? We're just going to hang out at the pool and live our best life, you know?
Yes, I want to go to the pool and hang out with you and live our best lives.
You can come whenever you want.
Awesome. I'm there.
So let's talk a little bit about parenthood. You have one son and a wonderful husband. What do you think you were least prepared for in parenthood?
Oof. That's a tricky question, Sam. The newborn stage was really hard. You know, your brain is on fire from lack of sleep. You're trying to nurse. If you choose to nurse, you're trying to nurse. You're trying to get that latch. You know, you're just trying to like keep your baby fed any way you cut it, right?
Yeah.
And we did all the things. I nursed and I pumped so that I could like see how much he was eating, and I fed him organic formula. I did all of the things because I just did. It's a long story, right. But I was doing, you know, all this stuff, and that was really hard. And also when he was a toddler, he had a lot of tantrums. And that was a tricky phase. Now he's doing fantastic. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe the first 3 years were really challenging. And, you know, people say that all the time. But I don't know. Some people are like, no, that was my favorite time. I guess it just depends on the person and their experience in it. So what one specific thing was I not prepared for? Gosh, I was not prepared for this is it. Ready? How important it is to regulate our own emotions while parenting. And that was something I didn't know until I was in it. And now like I'm in it, you know, I think about that kind of stuff all the time. And being in the industry that we are, and we're having these conversations all the time, I didn't know about that. And I didn't realize how important it is to be regulated, to help them stay regulated.
It's so funny that you say that, because literally as you were speaking about that and the tantrums and I was thinking, because I'm in the thick of it right now, I was thinking it's just so hard to regulate your emotion when they're freaking out. You want to freak out right with them. And you have to like, I feel like I like go into this place. I don't know where it is, a compartment in my mind where I'm like, okay, just breathe and let's not react and really try. But it's so hard. And I feel like for so many people who maybe have kids like very young and you're still really working through all of those things, because I was like in my mid-30s when I had the kids. So I felt like I did do a lot of work on myself in those areas just because it's kind of natural to do that. But I'm like, if you're just working through all of these in the moment, it's really, really, really difficult to like just.
It is. No, it really is. And I think that, you know, about what, like even my own mother, you know, how she raised me, she had me, she was 24 going on 25. And so, there's like not a lot of opportunity for that work. And again, that was during the 80s too. So it was a different time period altogether. But I do think how important it is for me to stay regulated so that I don't snap on him in ways that my mother had snapped on me, right? So that you don't continue the cycle. You have to break the cycle there. But I have a really good tip about staying regulated when your children are not. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Okay,
please.
So as they're being dysregulated, right? They're having an issue. This was from a woman named Stephanie Rosenfeld. She was the one that taught me this. Have a Ferris Bueller moment. And what she means by that is like, you know, in Ferris Bueller where he breaks the fourth wall. And so he like turns and he's like talking to the camera and everything kind of just stops behind him. Okay. So that's your thing. So you have to kind of just stop and then start looking around the room at different colors of things and start naming them. So I see a blue wall and I see a white ceiling and I see a brown couch. It takes your mind away from what's going on. It takes you down from, it helps regulate you, gets you like calm to then be able to react accordingly. And again, all this stuff happens within a fraction of a second, right? But if you can
so you're like red wall,
ground
blue wall.
Yeah, exactly. You're like brown frame. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But if it does it, but if you could do it quickly enough where it's not like rushed or like, like as crazy, but just to like bring you down, to ground you, to be like, okay, I'm present, I'm mindful, this is the situation, this is what's going on, now I'm going to react accordingly. And I found that to be like very helpful. Now, again, that takes practice. You're not going to do that like the very first time, but by the 10th time, then you're like, okay, yeah, now I feel regulated.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The first time you might be like, this is not, what is this? But then you're absolutely right. After, it'll just be a part of your practice. I love that tip. I will definitely make a clip out of this to share because I think it's so important and it's a great idea. Yeah. So what do you think that your parenting style is?
For a long time, I've told people that I consider myself a conscious parent. And what that means, and it's similar to gentle parenting, obviously. But what's different about that is that like you're checking in with yourself in order to check in with your child. And so like I know myself very well, and therefore I know sort of the response that I'm going to give with him. And that also means that like our relationship and our mutual respect is the most important thing in our relationship. And so I treat him like an individual, like a human being, like as if I'm having a conversation with you, I'll have a conversation with him. Obviously it's geared more towards like an age appropriate thing, but we have respect for each other. It's mutual respect. And it's not a power differential where it's like, well, I'm the mom and because I said so. I've never in 11 years ever said to my son, I'm the mom. That's why. That's just not, it's just simply not my style. So I'll explain to him different things. I mean, does he always like agree to them? Like, no, obviously he's a child, but it's like, but it's working towards understanding him at his most base level and then understanding myself at my most base level and seeing where we can meet each other halfway. Yeah. So the whole thing is based upon relationships. It's interesting. A lot of times people talk about like gentle parenting and this and that. Scripts have never worked for us. If you say this, then they do this, and then you say this, and it's never, I don't think, ever worked for us. And for some families, it works perfectly. And so that's awesome. Like lean into those if it works for you. It does not work for us. And so what does work for us is having to know each other so well, we don't need to rely on scripts to be able to interact in a certain way. And so that's where the conscious parenting comes in more so than even like the gentle parenting. Because a lot of times gentle parenting has a script like, honey, like whatever it is. I'm not going to go into that. But many times that they have scripts. So yes, I'm definitely a gentle parent, but I am also a conscious parent. And there's a wonderful, wonderful doctor named Dr. Shefali, who I would almost call her as like the leader of that movement. She has several books out. One is called The Parenting Map, and she talks about that kind of stuff. She actually just recently launched a new podcast called Parenting in You. On that show, she talks with like real life parents that are currently struggling with things, and she like walks them through like what they could be doing differently and how to help them. So I love Dr. Shefali. Yeah, she's amazing, and she's gentle, and she's kind, and she's sweet, and she's like sort of like soft spoken, and she's lovely, and she's like friends with Oprah Winfrey, which is super cool too.
Okay, she just knows people. Yeah,
like whatever.
Yeah, no, I love it. Is so nice to help people because a lot of my friends, like for example, with the gentle parenting scripts, they're like, okay, my kid just like broke a lamp, and now I'm supposed to get down at their level and honey, what caused you to slam that lamp? And you're like like we just talked about, angry. You're trying to regulate your emotions yourself, and your kid is not really responding. At 2 years old or 2.5 years old to that. So if them, you can give your own script that with your kids. So I do love that.
That's what it is. Yeah, exactly. Right. It's not like coming up with the script that Dr. X is giving you. It's coming up with your own script because your child well enough to do that. And again, that takes time. That doesn't just happen overnight. Similar to the regulation, that doesn't happen overnight either. All of this is truly a journey that we're on together, right? Like the child is learning how to be a human. You're learning how to be a parent, and everyone's just working together trying to do their best.
Yeah. So what's one piece of advice that you would give to other parents?
Gosh, there's so many, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I just gave like 25 of them.
Did.
I think my biggest one, and I often say this, is letting go of societal pressures. You know, we get so caught up in the keeping up with the Joneses, in as much as you're like, oh, my kid has to play baseball and basketball and they have to be in the honor society and they have to do this and that. And like, no, they don't. They don't. Mm-hmm. If that's not what they want or what they're good at or any of those things, like, they don't have to do that. Like, it doesn't make you a bad mom because your kid doesn't play baseball. It doesn't make you a bad mom because your kid's not on the top of the honor roll. Like, there's so much more to parenting and being individuals than being on that train, right? And like, sometimes you have to almost like get off the train to even be able to like look at the train and go, oh my gosh, like, what were we doing? You know?
Right.
And there I was sort of talking more about like elementary and maybe middle school and high school kids when I'm saying about baseball and stuff, but even much younger for parents of younger children with like, well, my kid needs to be speaking like 3 languages by the time he's 5. You know, I was doing all that kind of, trying to think through all of that kind of stuff. And the answer is like, no, like,
right. It is very stressful.
Let go of a lot of that shame and guilt and the pressure that we put on ourselves. And so that would probably be one of my biggest things, is like shed those expectations.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so let's get into some more advice from Modern Mom Probs. You told us how you started it, which is such an amazing way to build the community. So I wanted to ask a couple questions about maybe some modern mom prob answers to their problems. The one thing that I wanted to start off with, because a huge change in today's modernhood society is the need for work-life balance. How do you think that the pressure to balance career and family life impacts modern mothers differently than previous generations?
Yes, that's a beautiful question, Sam. Like, seriously.
Thank you.
People often ask me, like, you know, what are the most common modern mom probs that you hear that keep coming up and over again? And a lot of them are like social media comparison and loneliness and not having an in-person village. And work-life balance is obviously one of those as well. And now more than ever, there are more working mothers in society. And also at the same time, there are not sort of the safety nets, so to speak, for us to, you know, have, you know, paid childcare, paid maternity leave, all of those things, right? So, I mean, that's a given. We could just say, like, we know that's right. The case. And then also, too, in all of this, right, with working mothers and non-working mothers, there's the mental load, right? There's the packing the lunches. There's the shopping for those snacks that have to go into lunches. All of those things tend to fall on us as modern moms. And so what I often say here is like, we can't do everything for everyone all of the time. You just can't. So sometimes you have to pick and choose your battles. Sometimes, you know, maybe not every single meal will be organic, right? Not every single meal is going to be home cooked. You have to sort of like pick and choose where you need to like sort of, I'm using this in quotes, like cheat a little, you know, to be able to like get through the day, get through, you know, the week in the best way that you can. So that's what I would say there is there are 2 things. One, try to, like I said, cheat where you can. Can you order takeout? Can you have Friday night pizza nights? Like, you know, whatever that is. And then also, if you have a partner, then really you need to have a conversation about delegating. You have to be fair and equitable in your domestic labor, in the domestic duties, because in that way, that's where it starts to be equitable, right? So that it's not all just like falling on the working moms. Like, let's just say, I'm going to use you as an example here, right? Let's say you get home at 3:00 after school and you've worked all day, and now you have to, you know, you pick up the kids, I'm just making this up, from daycare, right? And now you have to make dinner, give the kids a bath, spend some time with them. Then your husband comes home from work, and then you also have to, like, you know, eat dinner all together as a family, spend time with him, you know, like,
no, it's
like
you're
bath time, put
explaining
the kids to bed.
everything. You are explaining my life, but he gets home at like 7:00 or he's on overnights and he's leaving at, 6:00. So it's very much that's how.
Or then, with shift work like that, then you're doing a lot of like alone parenting, putting the kids to bed and then waking them up in the morning and then feeding them breakfast. It's a lot. I know, because my husband also works in shifts like that too. Not so much anymore because he's changed his schedule around, but when my son was little, that happened much more frequently than it does now. Where was I going with this answer is probably the best question.
No, you just
after I described your day, but like from like a
but
30,
how I would delegate it, to my
from
husband.
a 30,000. I was gonna say from a 30,000 foot view of this, you have to look like what are the tasks at home that need to be done. It's laundry, it's loading the dishwasher, it's food shopping, it's meal prep, it's cooking those meals, it's cleaning those dishes up after those meals, all of that kind of stuff. And you need to have a conversation with your partner where you're like, I can't do all of this alone. And it would be super helpful if we could split this, whether it's down the middle or, more in a more equitable way than it currently is, to do this so that it's sustainable. Because what happens when those conversations aren't had? Resentment builds. It's like, I'm the one doing all this stuff. You come home at 7:00, you put on the TV and then you watch TV until you go to bed. And I'm giving the kids a bath and I'm reading them books and I'm tucking them in and you're still watching your show, like all of that kind of stuff, like resentment builds up. And so it's so important to have the conversations of like, hey, where can we split this? Could I'll give the kids a bath and then you tuck them in, or vice versa. And so it's so important to, if your partner is amenable to this, and I really hope that they are, it's so important to have those conversations because it's so tricky. And if you're a single mom, as my mom was, I grew up in a single family home, then my mom relied on my grandparents. So she had to like find her own village to then be able to do those things, right? But all the other mental load stuff fell on her, or it fell on me because I was an only child in a house like that. I was super mature. So like, I was also probably the one taking out the garbage, or I was the one, building IKEA furniture when I was 10 years old. True story. So like, you have to find your village or create your village however you can.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because just last week, laundry is always a big thing. And because we're so busy, it's the last thing on both of our plates. And I hate putting the kids' laundry away so much. Like, I absolutely loathe it. But I just never really said anything. And it's just something like we both do help obviously out with it. But the one day he's like, I hate folding laundry. And I was like, I hate putting laundry away. And he's like, I don't mind putting laundry away. And I was like, all right, I'll fold the laundry and you put it away. And like last night I'm folding the laundry and he's like, you got you got the bad end of the deal on this. I'm like, no, you got the bad end of the deal on this. Like, I don't mind folding this at all. This is like calming for me. I just hate putting it away.
It's funny that you say that, Sam. I feel the same way. I mean, I do both of those things, but like I'll fold it and put it away. But it's important because like then now it's a joke, right? Now not only have you split the delegation into two parts, right? Those tasks are in two parts. And now you have a common ground of like laughing and joking about this. And it's not the same like resentment that it could be otherwise, That makes a lot of sense. I recently started, I had to make a small tweak in how I was folding my laundry too, because I used to do it on a chair in my bedroom. And for some reason, I hated doing it there. Like I was folding it on the chair. And then when it was folded, then I was like putting it away, right? I also hate putting it away because it's like 1,000 steps back and forth. And then I started folding it in a different room on more of like a counter. And for some reason, it like changed my whole outlook on that. So like I take it from the dryer, I put it on this counter, I fold it on the counter, I put it in the hamper, and then I like walk the hamper to where I have to put it away. And just like a minor tweak has changed my whole perspective on doing laundry. So I also would say to people, sometimes you just have to sort of like reevaluate the task. And like that can make a big difference too.
Yeah. I love that. All right, next hot topic is social media and technology. We love it. We hate it. I have found so many wonderful, so much wonderful information to help navigate motherhood, but it can be so overwhelming in regards to parenting, the parenting comparison game. So how do you think, what advice would you have for mothers on how to handle the pressure to be, to not have to present this perfect image on social media and thinking that this is how everybody's life really is, of that one snippet that they post from their day?
Yeah, that's the thing. Social media is a highlights reel, right? People are posting what they want you to see. They are choosing to not post the stuff behind. And that's a choice, and even when people do sort of post some of the heavier stuff, or like the more real stuff, like that's also a choice, and they're showing like that particular thing, right? So you have to be super aware of what is out there for us to consume. I also have a love-hate relationship with social media, in as much as, one, it's afforded me to be able to like build the community that I have and do the work that I do. And I'm so grateful for that. And build the network of people all over the country, all over the world. And I love them. Like, I mean, all of my friends are in the internet. Like 95% of my friends are in the internet. And I love that. And when we get to meet in real life and hug and like be in each other's presence and look each other in the eye and all of that kind of stuff, I just love that. So that's wonderful. And also too, I'll say it probably has made me a better parent. Why? Because when I first got started, there wasn't even a lot of parenting advice out there. That wasn't really a thing. But then once people realized like, oh, this could be a thing, then it just exploded. And especially during the pandemic, right? It just exploded during the pandemic. That's when Dr. Becky came out and all of that kind of stuff. Parenting advice like really blew up online like 4 years ago. Because of that, that's where I've learned terms like conscious parenting or met Dr. Shefali. All of those things have been because of Instagram. And that's awesome. But having said that, does Instagram also sometimes make me feel terrible about myself? Yes. Does it make me feel like a loser and a failure and I could be doing this and that? Also, yes, too. So it's tricky. It's definitely a slippery slope in that sense, because it has done great things for me. And then it also makes me feel like complete garbage sometimes. And makes me question everything I've ever done. So yeah, it's definitely both. And what I say to people, and I say this all the time, and again, I'm saying this as like advice to myself, is you should always create more than you consume. And I say that whether it's to my son or to myself or to people listening, is create more than you consume. Put your phone down, set limits on it. I have limits set on my Instagram. I can't scroll for more than 10 minutes at a time, because a little like dialogue box pops up and it says time for a break, ? That's actually in the settings of Instagram. And
I might do that.
If yeah, you totally should. And if I'm on for more than an hour in total for the day, it will also pop up and say like time for a break ? Or maybe that one says like you've reached your hour. I think maybe that's what it says. And so I am a big fan of using technology to help you with technology, because everybody needs reminders, not just kids, but everybody needs reminders. And especially people that work in the industry, because we often tell ourselves like, well, it's research. I have to see what's trending. I have to see what people are talking about. And like, yes, but you should also do it in a healthy, safe way.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And it is so hard. And the one thing that I always think about is like sometimes on my like stories, it'll be like 5 people on vacation. And I'm like, oh my God, everybody's on vacation again. But then I'm like, there's thousands of my friends that posted nothing today that are not on vacation and they're sitting at home. So it's kind of just that like weird mental game that you're like, yeah, all these other people are actually at home, as well.
Yes, exactly.
So many of the topics that I focus on is maternal mental health, and many women, especially it obviously is through all of parenthood, but in the early phases, it's super difficult. How do you think mothers can prioritize their mental health in the fast-paced world of trying to figure out work-life balance, social life balance, husband or and wife dynamic balance?
Mental health, particularly maternal mental health, is something that is super important to me, and it's something that I speak about often, especially on podcasts, but I feel like even on social, I talk less about it than I used to. I used to like really, really talk about it. And then not that I went away from it, but it is, I think I now have that conversation, like I said, on podcasts. One of the really interesting conversations I had really recently on a podcast is this woman, Tammy Harkbarth. She correlates self-care and sharing the domestic load. So what she's saying is that in order to like properly have like true self-care, you need to be able to share the load at home, because that's one of the only ways that you can free up your time and free up your schedule to be able to do that. And I thought that was a really interesting take, because I hadn't necessarily heard those two equated before. Like, of course you hear about like sharing the load, but you don't necessarily think about like sharing the load and self-care together. So I give a shout out to her, because I think that she's doing really interesting work with that. I'm sorry, what was the question? Where were we going with that one?
No,
I'm like super tangential today.
I love it. No, it was just about how women can prioritize. You were answering, sharing the load, how women can prioritize their mental health in today's fast-paced world.
I think it also comes into like little pockets of things. We often think like, oh, well, self-care is like go getting your nails done and getting a blowout and stuff like that. I don't necessarily count those as self-care. That's almost more like don't either. Hygiene things, like it's not like a shower, right? Like a shower is not self-care. That's like hygiene. It's much more basic than that. Self-care is like those little glimmers of your day where you're doing something that fills you with joy. So whether it's like listening to a song that you love in the car and you're going to like sit in the car like a couple minutes longer just to like let that song finish. It could be like scrolling your phone for positive things, upbeat things, right? Things that make you feel good. I think a lot of it is like, filling yourself with joy, whether it's like wearing a new outfit or something that is a bright color or something that fits you really well and fills you with such confidence. I really would love to like lean into the joy and the confidence and the positivity in those things. That's probably where I would go with that. And again, maybe, getting your nails done and your hair done like does count as that with the joy and the confidence. It depends, it's a spectrum, right? Everyone is different and everybody finds joy from different things. I mean, sometimes it's something just as simple as if the sun is shining and you like close your eyes and you sort of just like put your face up towards the sun and just like let the sun like you just feel the sun on your face. Like, it's such a yummy feeling, and like, it's just like little pockets of those things throughout the day.
Yeah, I love that. It is very that is one thing that I'm a big advocate of. I'm like, I hate getting my nails done. They're not done now. I have to do them at some point from between now and tomorrow night. And I'm like, when am I going to find the time? I don't want to get it done. I don't want to go sit. I have a gel kit at my house because that's how much I don't like getting my nails done. Like that, a pedicure might be self-care for me, but not a manicure.
I love that you say that. Sam, no, seriously. I love that you say, I do have my nails done. And because
they look beautiful.
Thank you. We recently went on vacation, so I got my nails done. But it's funny, anytime I go, my husband always says, have fun. And I always say to him, it's not fun. Like, I'm not going there to have fun. Like, I don't see that as fun. I don't see that as like, oh, I'm enjoying myself like there. No, it's like, not that I'm saying it's work. It's definitely not work, but like, it's not what I would consider as like,
because you're also fun. Like, confined to like you can't, maybe if self-care is like looking at something on their phone or whatever, like you can't even do that. Your like hands are here and you're like, I can't even use my hands. And then it's kind of rude to like, sometimes I feel like have like something in my ears where I'm listening to because they're trying to talk, which is, just nice as well. But I'm like, I don't feel comfortable listening to a book or something in that setting just because I want to be present there. And I'm like, gosh, is this over yet?
That's how I feel too. I love that you have a gel kit. I feel like I should buy one because I am that person. And I do gels over regular manicures because they dry instantly. And I hate waiting to do like the regular ones because I'm so like impulsive and impatient. I'm like, I got to get out of here.
Right. Well, that's why I got it. And because I was like, this way I can just, whenever I need to do it, like I can do it. Like I could do it at midnight tonight if I find myself having time to do it. And I don't have to schedule it into my already busy schedule that I don't have time to do it for. So.
Yes. Yeah, so that definitely counts. If it's going to fill you with joy as like the end result, and you look and you go, wow, I did a really good job on my nails. Like that
and
fills you with joy.
I love the way, like I said, not right now, but tomorrow they'll look different.
I hope you're going somewhere fun.
I actually, my birthday is Tuesday, so I have a few different events. We're going to a concert on Saturday, my husband and I, and tomorrow night I actually have like a networking business event in my area, which is like something I'm really it's just women only. I'm really excited for that.
That sounds like so much fun. Happy birthday.
Thank you. It's like this is my favorite week. So I'm like super happy of, all the good things that are happening in this week. Cause there's always like dinners and lots of self-care this week.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I love that. And this is a week, obviously going back to what we were saying about like sharing the load, is like your husband's going to have to do a lot of that stuff to free up your time as well.
Yeah. Like, it's my birthday this week. Yeah, I got to do this. It's my birthday this week. He's like, okay, you celebrate your whole month. Like, get over it.
I'm the same way in March. My birthday's in March, and I'm the same way. I'm like, guess what time it is?
Yeah, I love it. It's like June, but then my son was born June 2nd. So I'm like, gosh, now I got to share the month with, no, I'm just kidding.
That
but
is super funny.
Combine with a lot of the social stuff. I'm like, all right, Parker's first, and then it's me in the middle of the month, and I can celebrate the second half. But
I love that.
So the next thing that I want to talk about is a support system. It's such a different, just like with the work-life balance, it's very different than maybe when we were growing up, because families are not living as villages anymore. They're living a lot further apart. Many lack the typical family support system. So what role do you think community plays in modern motherhood, and how can the online community be both beneficial and sometimes detrimental to moms?
Yeah. Beautiful question. Like, Sam, really, you're like cranking these questions. They're so good. No, they really are, because I often speak about that, is that our villages are no longer in person the way that they were in previous generations, right? So what do we do about that then? Well, there's a couple things. One, we can create the village. We can, bring in friends, neighbors, other parents that you meet at your children's schools or daycare. That was my village when my son was born. We were living in New York City, and we didn't really have anybody. Like, our moms didn't really come and help us out.
Yeah.
We made friends with some parents from daycare, and those were our first, that was like our first community. And again, that was a community that we created because my son was in daycare, right? And so I think a lot of that now, I heard someone once speak about having to pay for the village. You have to pay for a nanny or a babysitter or daycare even, right? And so it's not the necessarily free village that you have. There may be a certain cost for that, which, unfortunately it's hard. But if you're able to afford a babysitter or, other people like that, then, that's amazing. More power to you. That's like so useful, right? Like, and that may even consist of, like a housekeeper or a chef or, whatever it is. I don't know. Maybe people have chefs. I don't know. That sounds amazing.
Ooh, I'd like a chef.
I don't know. Sign me up for that. But I'm just trying to
If you have a chef, I need new friends. So
yes,
you can
come on. 100%. Yes. But it's true though. I mean, that village could consist of a babysitter. It could consist of a housekeeper, right? It could consist of some of those people that are making the load lighter for you, so to speak. But I know that I created my village. Like I said, I created it with the moms and the parents, the dads too, from my son's daycare initially. And then when, from each school that he went to, whether it was like from the daycare to the nursery school to the elementary school, we just kept making more and more friends. And you're not going to be friends with every single person, of course, right? It's just not possible, but because you're just not going to click with everybody. But I think it's super important to create your own village where you can. And it definitely helps when your children are in school, because there is sort of that built-in network. And then when I started Modern Mom Probs, I was living in New York City. I was super lonely. I did not have many friends. All of my friends at that point probably were like my work friends, and they didn't have kids at the time, and they were still working at Nickelodeon. And I didn't have any like mom friends. And that's why I mentioned about the daycare. So here I am, like this lonely mom living in a city of like 8 million people. I was like, what am I going to do? So I turned to online. So I started my account and I started making friends with other content creators and writers. At that point, everyone was mostly like writers. And because like the Instagram was like a lot of writers early on. Like now it's more video people, but at the time, early on, it was writers.
The bloggers,
Exactly. And so we were all writers, and that was my village. And they were so important to me. And they're still important to me. I don't talk to them as often now, but like we had each other's backs and we were answering each other's questions. And we were like, is this weird? Have you seen this before? Did your child do this? Whatever. And it was so valuable, so valuable. And those friendships still are so valuable. And to answer your question, going back to like, when is it positive and when is it detrimental? It's positive when it is a funneled down version of who your friends are, right? Like you can't be friends with, you know, millions and millions of people, but you can be friends with a solid group of 10, 15 women who are your absolute closest best friends, right? And when it's detrimental, so when you're in a group chat and everyone's like sharing ideas and you're like truly friends, that's a different story. I like to tell people that my best friends on social media have my cell phone number and we actually text versus like DM, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like
yes.
Once you take it like out of DMs and into like an actual text message chain, that's like a totally different thing.
You're like, now we're friends.
Now we're like friends. Yeah, exactly. But to go back to the detrimental thing, where is it detrimental? It's detrimental on groups like Facebook groups, where you, let's say, put something up like, here's a question. Hey guys, have you ever experienced X, Y, and Z? And then these people come out of the woodwork with like the craziest answers you could possibly ever imagine. They're like, okay, I'm sorry I asked. You know, and I noticed that on our local Facebook group. Actually, it's more so the Upper East Side Moms Facebook group, which is true story. How and why I started my account in the first place was like lampooning the Upper East Side Moms Facebook group. True story.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, but nowadays people like post all of that stuff anonymously because they know how crazy the answers are going to be, that I don't think that they want their names associated to like the question and, you know, the like main question. But the people's answers are not anonymous. Those are like straight up.
I know. Well, that's the one thing I am in some Facebook groups just to like see the craziness, and I just am, you know, a viewer. But the thing is that like people will anonymously post like a very either intimate question or like very personal question. All these people are responding with like, they're not anonymous. And I'm like, okay.
Yes.
Like, let me look at you. What's going on with your family? You know? And it's just like natural to do that because I'm nosy and, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh. But the Facebook groups get wild, man.
They get wild. So like, would I say that's detrimental? Absolutely. You know, are people shaming people? Absolutely. And you see that on Instagram and you see that on Twitter and you see that on probably TikTok and Threads and everything like that. So that's when it's detrimental. When it's people that you don't know, who don't know your family situation, where it's a snapshot in time. A person's asking a question that's a snapshot in time, and these other people all come out of the woodwork to jump on them without any context or anything like that.
Right.
That's where it's detrimental. If you were in a smaller group chat with, like I said, 10, 15 people, and you say, hey guys, have you ever experienced X, Y, and Z? More likely than not, your friend's going to say yes, and it's going to be supportive. And like, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for an answer, but a supportive answer, not like an answer like out of these people from
some random person that you have no idea is, oh my gosh,
that doesn't know your family, doesn't know your situation, anything like that. So it still blows my mind that people even ask Facebook groups questions, but I don't know. It's entertaining. And like I said, that's actually how I started my stuff in the first place.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love it because there are so many crazy questions. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, you've given us so much advice. The last question I have is what are your future goals for Modern Mom Probs?
That's something that I think about every day. I don't know. I'm 44 now, and it's interesting because I don't know if I could necessarily do this forever. No?
Right.
Obviously, it's hard to talk about like baby stuff and toddler stuff because my son is 11.
Right.
And so it's not that it's like inauthentic because I could still present it as this is the information that, you know, we're discussing, but I don't know necessarily to answer your question. So it's something that I'm still exploring because on paper, I've like done all of the things that I have set out to do, you know, like I wrote a book, I have a podcast, like I've done the things that I had in previous years, like set up goals for. So it's like, well, now what's my next goal? I don't know, Sam. I'm still exploring.
That's all right. Goals are ever changing, and that's the beauty of it. And it is so awesome. It's so awesome to reach all your goals, but then you're like, okay, like that's kind of what my husband and I talk about this all the time, that we prior to like me getting involved in podcasting and more serious content creating, I had gotten everything that I kind of wanted to do and be, and he's in the same position, and we're both like, okay, so now we have to do this for 25 more years of our life. Like, what do we do? How do we evolve? Like, I don't believe that in our mid 30s, like we're just done growing. So
no, you're definitely not. You're absolutely not. I started Modern Mom Probs when I was 36, 35, 35 or 36. So like I was probably about your age, like when I started it too. Yeah. And so things evolve. Like even the account itself has evolved over time, in as much as like when I started it, it was solely humor account. And then it evolved to talk about more serious things like maternal mental health.
Right.
And like I evolved as a person and as a mother, and the account evolved because now I say that anything that falls underneath the umbrella of a modern mom problem, I'll talk about it.
Right.
And so that's a lot of things. It's like going to Target for lattes and then depression and, you know, pregnancy loss. You know, it runs the gamut.
It can be anything.
It could be anything. And so that evolved over time, just as, you know, the brand will evolve over time and you'll evolve over time. And you know what? Even the platforms evolve over time, because Instagram is very different from when I started to where it is now. Right. So sometimes like you lead that stuff, and then sometimes that stuff leads you. So I like to think that it's important to be open to different possibilities and then sort of just see where it takes you.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's a great place to stop. That's going to bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Tara for sharing her wisdom and experience with us. Tara's insights into the challenges of modern motherhood have been so helpful to navigate this motherhood journey. From dealing with the pressure of social media to finding balance in work and family life, Tara has provided us with valuable perspectives and practical advice. So thank you, Tara, for that.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And as always, if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it. You can also follow me on Instagram at @TheRunningWineMom_. And Tara, where can the listeners find you?
Modern Mom Probs.
Perfect. And I will link all of that. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of motherhood. Cheers. And I will be back next Tuesday. Yay!